Salutations, Shades, and welcome back to your one-stop shop for all things strange and unusual, the Talking with Shadows. The conversation everyone has, but no one wants to admit to. Here with your host, Vic Whately.
And Marcus D. And we want to give a big shout-out to Travis and Ricky from the Nightclub podcast, who recently had us on their podcast.
Man, it was a blast. Those guys are pretty damn funny.
It was, man. Those were really awesome guys. We spent a whole night talking all things Phantom Clown Phenomenon, Killer Clown Phenomenon, as well as reviewing the movie Coraline.
And they were really good hosts.
Yeah, they were. They were really cool. It was a lot of fun. It was really fun to delve into like a really like dark topic, because occasionally we get into it, but something like, you know, the Phantom Clown Phenomenon, the Killer Clown Phenomenon, it can get kind of dark.
Coming from the guy who did Adrenochrome, though.
Hey, I did that in a way which I felt would not get us kicked off YouTube or iTunes, okay? You tried to in Adrenochrome.
I never wanted to do Adrenochrome. I think you guys handled it real well.
That's true. I
think it was a good video, but yeah. Personally, it's like, no, I'm not touching this.
Yeah. So that's a good point. That's a good point. But yeah, thank you, Travis and Ricky, man. You guys are really awesome. We appreciate that. So, boom. Let's get into the alcohol for today, guys. We're going to do... I want to get into this, guys. Today, we're drinking JK's Patriotic Pawpaw, which is a hard cider. Oh, man. These things look like those juice barrels from when we were kids.
What's a pawpaw?
A pawpaw?
I mean, back home, that's what we called our grandfather.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought that it meant.
Oh, I assumed pawpaw was like a type of like alcohol or something. Like a Pilsner is a type of beer. I thought maybe a pawpaw was a type of a cider.
No, Actually, if you don't know, the pawpaw is America's forgotten fruit that is now becoming popular again. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and Lewis and Clark are just a few of our patriots that fell in love with the many tropical flavors of this fruit.
He did not know that. He is reading it. He is reading it off the bottle. He's just reading it off the bottle.
No,
and you know what? I'm going to out you. Because when we were on the Nightclub podcast, he was talking the whole time like, oh, in the book Coraline this, oh, in the book Coraline that. He's never read that book. He just went and freaking spark noted it.
Why are you doing me that way? Why are you calling me out like that, man?
You know it had to be done. You know it had to be done.
Dude, that is the way that I coasted through every single book report I ever had to do in school. I gotta say,
you pulled it off really well. Like,
I'm sorry.
Like, real well. Like, if someone didn't know you, they would have thought you read it. Like, our host thought you had read it.
I know.
Me, I knew you, so the whole time sitting there like, you didn't read that damn book.
I'm talking about the book Coraline like I've read it. Makes you stare at Dick. It's at me the whole time.
The worst part is it's by Neil Gaiman, and I'm actually a Neil Gaiman fan, and he's sitting here pretending like he's read his works.
It's not fair. So no, when we critiqued Coraline on the podcast, I had looked up famous things about the book or movie, and they were referencing stuff from the book.
Here's the bottle opener. Let's try this pawpaw.
Thank you very much.
I kind of want to try the fruit now. I'm not familiar with this. I was
trying to sound smart, and you just totally... God, you're like the snitch in school telling the teacher all the kids have candy.
No, I did not call you out during the podcast.
You're just doing it now.
Yeah, I'm doing it now.
Oh, that is delicious.
Yeah, if that's what a pawpaw tastes like, I want to get some.
That is amazing. Oh.
I'll give it to you, Marcus. You did good today.
Yeah, it's like grown up apple juice. This is so delicious.
It's sweeter than an apple. I don't know. You can tell it's not apple, but it's very similar.
I know. I thought it was just apple. I really did. Like, I thought that's what it was. It doesn't have like it doesn't have any kind of like a bitter bite.
But like, it's really close to an apple, though.
Like Smirnoff does, or like oh God, what's those other hard ciders that we drink all the time?
I know what this tastes like. This tastes a lot like fruit punch.
Yeah.
It has a lot of like the flavor of a fruit punch.
What is in this? This is amazing. It doesn't even just pawpaw fruit. Oh, there it is. Fresh apple juice. So apple juice is in it. Pawpaw juice, blood orange and basil flavorings.
And just so you guys know, we are not sponsored by them. We literally
it's just that good.
Just 10 minutes ago, we walked into a liquor store, grabbed something, and came back to the studio with it.
Oh my gosh, they're our neighbor, and it comes from our neighbors from the north. This is where you're supposed to say Canada. And I'm going to go.
Well, I'm like, does he mean Michigan or Canada?
Michigan. That's what I was talking about. I was waiting for you. You totally missed it.
You got to give me, if you're setting me up for saying 90% of the time I'm going to miss it, you should know that by now.
This is 5% alcohol, too. Yeah, this is a good deal. Yeah. All right. I'm only going to allow to drink 2 of these because I will drink the 3 of these if left to our own devices.
Oh, no, I'm drinking the other 2. They only come in a 4-pack.
Nope. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and just take my other one now just for defense. Okay, we've already divided them up. That's how good these things are. And I'm just saying right now, we rarely on this podcast ever totally
we're usually fighting about the beers.
Yeah, we're usually disagreeing. Today we are in total agreement. I'm giving this 2 thumbs up. 2 paws up.
Yeah, that's damn good. Okay, let's get moving.
Let's get into some comments, man, from our last episode. We're not going to go over the comments that I did from the bonus episode that I released from the one that me and Bulldog did back in 2019. I want to thank everybody for all the thank yous and all the good wishes that you guys gave to us during that episode. Thank you guys very much. But we're going to talk about the comments that we got from our episode on the Battle of Ape Canyon. And if you have not watched that episode,
go watch it. Go watch it now.
Go listen to it.
Pause this video. Play this video and the other video at the same time.
Yes,
exhort both.
It is the greatest battle that is not told in history classes today. You should absolutely be read up on it when these true American heroes fought off these vicious, violent Bigfoot.
Actually, go open up your internet browser. Open up all of our videos, each in different tabs. Play them all simultaneously, and there will be a hidden message there for you.
Okay. Creepy California, super duper fan, patron, said, could it be that Bigfoot isn't coming from another dimension, but that he's coming through a time slip and we are seeing the missing link? Like Bigfoot is at the point between primate and human that we are missing. Actually, we talk a lot. I think we talk about that in the patron section a little bit. I think that was what Fred Beck in his book was talking about, was he thought that Bigfoot might be kind of that missing link in the chain from humanity and primates from another dimension.
I would believe we talked about it, and I just don't remember it. I would believe that.
But no, absolutely. Like Bigfoot's coming back in time.
Well, he'd be going forward in time.
Through time. Forward in time. Yeah.
So the thought is that, it's the so-called missing link. It's moving forward in time to now.
I like that. Simple Joe, patron, said, big fan, especially for video on Faye and Dogman.
Oh,
maybe you guys can do gnomes next.
I would love to do gnomes again. We've actually done one, but I'd love to revisit the topic.
Absolutely. Simple Joe, we actually replied to your comment. We sent you the link that we had to our gnomes, Gnomes But About It episode where we talked about gnomes. We found some pretty interesting stuff when we were looking at that. Jay the Phoenix said, what are your thoughts on the supposed dead Bigfoot that were found after the Mount St. Helens eruption? Yeah, I had heard the reports and accounts of people finding dead Bigfoot and stuff, and I think the problem that I have with it is I don't think there was really any photographic evidence that ever circulated around from it. I think supposedly it was that the government came in and took them and made them bail and all, they disposed of the bodies and all that.
That sounds like what they'd probably do, assuming they're trying to keep it secret.
Yeah, when that happened, it killed a lot of the wildlife in the area from there. And here's the one thing that I have a hard time with that particular theory that they were. I think the Bigfoot probably hauled booty out of that situation, because I think that if there was a bunch of dead Bigfoots around, that would be hazardous probably for the government to come and hoover up. It would probably be dangerous for them to do that.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but have we ever talked about on our show like our thoughts on why the government would cover up Bigfoot.
I think that we've alluded a little bit to it before. I think we may have like talked about it a little bit about why the government covers it up.
I know that like we already had something for the Patreon segment, but let's slide that in there too, because I don't think we've ever like really hammered that one out. Maybe we have, and I've just forgot. I don't have the best memory.
Lashane said, episode 77, I remember the day, number 1, Urban Monsters, 12 Stairways to Not Heaven, as one Candle Pre-podcast era enjoyer.
Oh, goodness.
The lying down after a long, chaotic day is appreciated. Halloween season specials win. Actually, that was something that me and Vic were talking about. Actually, before this episode, we were actually talking about what we were going to do for Halloween.
Would you guys like something that's just pretty much a bonus episode where we talk about something that's like just really extra creepy stuff? Or would you guys like a kind of extra cheesy Halloween special? We're trying to decide between that.
Or is there something specific you want us to do? Put it in the comments below. Comment below. So, I am Sfeel. Said, the only reason the Sasquatches started issues with the miners was that they were mining their gold. For all we know, Sasquatches need gold for something.
Oh, they're hoarding their gold.
They're greedy, keeping their gold away from us.
I mean, Sasquatch is just what the dwarves evolved into.
Yeah.
They just got big and their beard started to cover their whole body.
And they totally know all these humans are going to come take their gold. Maybe that's why I bury my gold so much, because I'm part Sasquatch.
Oh, man. Dwarf.
Man.
But no, think about it. We humans clearly value gold. If we're to be believed, some extraterrestrial accounts, they value gold as well as reptilians and many other things. Who's to say this isn't something that Sasquatch either find valuable or sacred or something along those lines?
Yeah, that they need it for some sort of reason that we just don't know.
Maybe we think it's valuable because we used to use it to buy off Sasquatches.
Maybe they really are just greedy and they use gold as a way of trading amongst themselves. Who knows? You know what I'm valuing right now? This patriotic pawpaw.
To tell you the truth, I've almost drained my first one.
Oh, I know. Oh, man. Oh. All right, that is all the comments that we have for today. So, we thought today that it would be fun, because we have talked for 3 episodes pretty much on Bigfoot stuff. It wasn't on purpose, surprisingly enough, whenever we were covering hairy humanoids. But whenever you're talking about hairy humanoids, what's the number one thing that people are going to talk about?
Bigfoot.
You know, I typed that in, try to come up with some ideas, and I'm just presented with all of these Bigfoot stories.
So we've kind of neglected all of our other hairy homies.
However, we're going to correct that today. Well, we're going to talk about some things that are hairy humanoids that aren't exactly, that are not Bigfoot. I'm not going to say not exactly, that are just flat out not Bigfoot. So, what's the first thing that you want to get into, man?
Okay, I know we've talked about this guy before, but it's been a long time since we've talked about him, and I would love to resurrect him now and kind of go over some of the things involving him.
Spring Hill Jack.
Spring Hill Jack, for most accounts, he wasn't described as being overly hairy.
Oh, okay. I really thought that's what you were going to say.
I seen Goatman.
Oh, Goatman,
We haven't talked about Goatman in forever.
Yeah, well, we did the Pope Monster like way
a long. I think that might have been season 1.
Time ago. Oh man,
season 1 or 2.
Oh my god.
But
I'll try to look it up while we're doing it now.
It does have certain aspects that do seem somewhat Bigfooty. They can be aggressive. They usually stick to forested areas. They like to do calls, something that is only occasionally associated with Bigfoot, but mainly associated with other forest monster things. The mimicry element, where it can try to mimic sounds that it hears to draw you closer into its lair. And specifically, we have one not far from us in northern Kentucky. There's the Pope Monster, which is a goat man who hangs out under this specific bridge that you can't get to because they built a fence to, they say, keep us out from getting in there and getting in trouble. I think it's to keep the goat man in.
I don't think that a simple chain link fence is going to keep the Pope Monster like encased.
But let's talk about the bridge.
He's also on the bridge.
On the bridge, under the bridge. But let's talk
about
the
troll.
Well, the thing is, like, many monsters are associated with being under bridges. For some reason, It's a place where monsters gather. And I have a good theory on why. Where do you contact the Blues Devil from?
The Blues Devil?
If you want to make a contract with the Blues Devil, where do you go?
You got to go to a bridge.
What?
Or a cross section.
Yeah, a crossroads.
Yeah, crossroads
you go to
at midnight.
Crossroads. And effectively, a bridge over running water, or even a bridge over like a ravine, is effectively a form of crossroads. It's a crossing of two paths. It's one of the thoughts is the reason why you can contact like the devil at a crossroads, and there's all these occultic rituals to do at a crossroads, is because a crossroads is a superliminal space. It's a space where it is in between possibilities, in that if you can do magic or if you're going to encounter a monster, those sort of things occur in that liminal space. And I think that's why it's under a bridge. I think that's why probably people used to encounter trolls under bridges and things like that. Weird stuff happens when things are liminal.
Yeah, but doesn't like most people at the public bridge stores involve typically somebody dying because they were typically trying to deal with the Goatman?
Are you talking about the accounts where people have gotten up on the bridge and done dumb stuff and died? Yes. No, I was kidding about they built the fence to keep the Goatman in.
It's keeping kids out.
Yeah, no, like yes, people go up there and do dumb shit and die. I was building atmosphere with that statement, not actually making a claim. I apologize if I sounded overly serious there.
I could just see it. The Goatman just walks. It was chain link fence, my only weakness. How did you know?
Now, I generally, unlike Bigfoot, which I generally, when I don't think too deep about it, think about as a biological creature. And I think most people fall into that. The Pope-like monster, although having certain similarities and definitely qualifies as a hairy humanoid, most people don't go that way, and it's because this is very biologically unlikely. It's a bipedal creature with cloven hooves. I mean, I don't think that's going to happen.
I like the Goatman from Massachusetts that just carries around an axe.
Yeah.
Because apparently above all the things, the way he's going to get you is by, decapitating you with his axe.
And you also got that in, you got aggressive Goatmen in Texas as well, because the monsters in Texas are sexually aggressive.
You got that little tidbit out.
The monsters in Texas are always real aggressive. But think about it. Of course, the sexual reference is going to be mixed in. What are these things invocative of?
Sex.
Why are they in satyrs? Yeah, satyrs were heavily associated with being these lusty sexual icon things that lived out in the wilderness and would kind of lure you in with music, much like this thing lures people in by mimicking things.
You know, one of the things that I've always had a really hard time since we're getting into Goatman stories that really nobody ever taught. I swear I have never heard one person ever bring this up when they're talking about Goatman or Sheepsquatch or anything like that. If we bring that up, one story where the thing uses their horns.
Yeah, I'm actually hard pressed to come up with one as well.
Yeah, if you're listening to this right now, think about that. When was the last time that you ever really heard a single Goatman Sheepsquatch story where they're using their horns? Can you think of an animal that has horns that doesn't use their horns for some sort of reason?
Evolution has a rule of use it or lose it.
Yes, that's my point. And I always just find that just super odd about some of these stories that there's not even supposedly. Now, I'm not saying that they don't, by the way. I have an explanation for this, by the way, for where I think they could still be using this.
I want to say that there is an account where one was scraping his horn against a tree. I think I've read something like that, but I might not have. That might have been like a creepypasta I'm mixing in with or something.
Grasping for straws. I mean, this is what I thought. But I have an explanation for why I do think that they could still be a thing, even though you've never seen one using horns. You ever heard of like the sky booms?
Yeah.
Yeah, but what if that's like two Goatmen or Sheepsquatches that are running their heads in together, and that's what's causing these loud crashing sounds, like when people hear them way out in the woods. Don't you hit one.
Oh, there we go.
What is that, man? That's a real thing, man. People hear that all the time.
Do you really think that, like, the sky booms are going to be two Goatmen hitting their heads against each other?
Not the sky booms, but I mean like sonic, like people that hear crashing sounds in the wilderness, or people that hear strange banging sounds. That people always think that they're hearing this thumping sound, thinking it's just some sort of Sasquatch that's hitting against a tree.
No, I would buy.
That's what I mean.
Because my thought was, I don't think it's going to be
not the actual sky boom phenomenon.
I'm not talking about what you were saying.
No, but I'm talking about like loud boom sounds. Like you go through like any part of the country that has sightings of either Goatman or Sheepsquatch, you can actually find accounts of people hearing large boom bang sounds that people can't explain, or people try to write off saying that they're large pipe explosions. But these could be other sounds, like the Sheepsquatch or Goatman
And it could be much louder than normal goats banging their heads because we're dealing with things larger than regular
Also,
goats.
do you know how many times that I've heard people incorrectly say the phrase that female sheep don't have horns?
No, female sheep can.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I heard so many, dude. Researching this episode today, I heard so many people in either YouTube videos or podcasts that literally kept saying the phrase "sheep don't have horns."
We're already kind of moving into your next point, so let's go ahead and fully jump over to
yeah. We're doing one of the things that I really wanted to talk about was Sheepsquatch, or it's also known as the white thing. It was really weird. One of the things I didn't realize about Sheepsquatch is it's essentially like this large, hairy humanoid with apparently white, woolly fur and horns that wrap around its head with these like raccoon-like hands, and some people describe it with this opossum-like tail. The number one place where Sheepsquatch is generally sighted is in West Virginia, particularly Boone, Kewanna, Putnam, and Mason counties in West Virginia. Most specifically, Boone County is where this is where Sheepsquatch county is. It's a little different than Goatman, because when Goatman's like, it's got cloven hooves and it's got fur and kind of the body of a man. Sheepsquatch is like Bigfoot with horns. I mean, it really is kind of like that, the sort of thing in a tail. But I mean, it's different from a Goatman. It's not the same thing.
If it wasn't for the color change, do you know what that really makes me think of? Or the color difference?
The lake monster from Texas?
No, I was actually thinking about, are you familiar with the Green Man?
Wasn't that the guy that was like deformed and he just
No, not that. No, that's a different Green Man. I'm talking about the English Green Man from mythology. We actually don't know very much about him, but it's generally like this human face, and it's always depicted surrounded by foliage, and it often has these horns.
Oh, that come off its head? Yeah.
So my thought is like, if they're depicting something where it's looking through the foliage, like a Bigfoot is sometimes associated with doing, it kind of sounds like that.
Yeah, but so many times when I was listening to other people talk about Sheepsquatch, they kept saying, "Well, sheep don't have horns. I don't know why they call it Sheepsquatch." And I'm like, "Yes, they do. Yes, that's why you guys should listen to us." That way,
their horns do usually
they're short, they're smaller. Yeah. Now, what I will give that credit for is they don't usually have that big, giant, round thing going on that Sheepsquatch is typically typically known to have.
That's just too many kids growing up in the city.
Yeah. But would something that big need a tail to walk around with? That was the thing that was the biological adaptation that I thought was kind of weird, of something that big that's bipedal that would need a tail.
My thought would be this: it would probably be a vestigial tail. It probably wouldn't have a function and is in the process of going away. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's a functional tail that it needs to survive. I think this is a throwback appendage.
Mm-hmm. And I always thought that it was.
Oh, actually, I can think of an account or a way it could still be useful. Many creatures use their tail for nonverbal communication. That way they can inform other animals around them or other of their same kind around them information without having to give away their location. Mm-hmm. So does it have a sheep-like tail, or what sort of tail are we talking?
Like a possum.
Like a possum.
Where it's like skin. That's kind of the weird part. It's weird.
I'm gonna go to more likely to be vestigial than using it for communication.
Well, what's really weird about the Sheepsquatch is I've heard people. There's like weird camp. We talked about that. There's camps.
Yeah.
Like in the Bigfoot thing. Like, is it like a primate, undisclosed hominid? Is it weird? Like a weird creature? There's camps with Sheepsquatch.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. That is it bipedal or was it quadrupedal where it walks on all fours?
Yeah, that's quadrupedal.
Yeah, and there's like two camps of people that think that it actually walks on all fours. That's why it has the tail, and it just stands up and can just sort of move around, kind of like a bear can. Like it's kind of like walking around a little bit. I mean, bears don't have that long of a tail, but that it can kind of move, kind of like that.
The quadrupedal category. What do they think it's using the tail for?
I didn't say it got that detail. I just said that there's just two camps of people that do. They don't get that. You got to come to us, guys, to get that kind of detail.
Because the thing is this. My first thought is this. I'm imagining the creature large, horned, but now on all fours. What's it doing with its tail? Bears lost their tails a long time ago because they didn't really need a tail anymore.
Maybe it's like Appa from The Last Airbender, where it uses it to airbend so that it could fly.
Are there any accounts of it flying?
There are not any accounts of it. People saying that it absolutely can't fly. So short answer, no. Short answer, so no.
I'm gonna throw a bunk on that one.
It's probably not. I just thought that was interesting that there's like two camps within Sheepsquatch about it. There's division.
No, that part very neat. Very neat.
But I was surprised on why more people just don't talk about the lack of the use of horns for these things, or people trying to explain like why they're hearing large boom sound. Like that's why I was talking about. That's why I think they might explain some of these.
Does it have like the curved horn? I think it's called a conical horn.
Yeah. They're like bighorn rams. Yeah, it's got like those massive things too. Because keep in mind, man, do you realize like how much force a bighorn ram hits with about 800 pounds of force when it hits somebody? Like that will just that's like being hit by like an amateur boxer. Okay, so imagine like
Rocky hit harder.
Imagine like a 9 foot tall Sheepsquatch running full tilt at you that it just spears you like Goldberg from the WWE. Like it's just going like I don't know why it just wouldn't do that to you rather than trying to slash up your car like some accounts of it does. Like this thing would just it would wreck your day if you got speared by the Sheepsquatch.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but goats have true horns, correct?
What's a true horn?
A true horn compared to like a fake horn would be like
you can make a wish off of it?
No. No, like for example,
like
antlers,
it summons the forces of Gondor.
Oh my god. No, like a fake horn would be things like antlers or things that look like horn. True horns are bones.
Ah, gotcha.
So do you know, I think goats have true horns, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
That I don't know. Well, I don't know if the Sheepsquatch could be counted as like a sheep.
But at the same time, it has a very similar appearance to goat horns. So our best guess is basically, it looks like this. What is this made out of?
You know, one of my favorite explanations as to the
I'm opening my second side.
Oh, you're fine. You can do that. Actually, one of the characteristics about Sheepsquatch, which is really interesting, is the weird sulfur smell that comes off of the Sheepsquatch.
But that's true about most hairy humanoids.
That's true. Well, to be fair, though, they attribute that to the vast majority of them being from Boone County. And apparently, Boone County, West Virginia, I didn't know. I wanted to know, like, where that sulfur smell comes from. Like, I thought that was some sort of, like, a demonic thing. I thought that it was just, like, a weird pheromone thing. But apparently, the water in Boone County, West Virginia, smells like sulfur. And this has been, like, an ongoing problem due to mining. And there's a lot of accounts of it just wading through the water, which apparently has this like pungent sulfur smell.
I'm going to throw in another possibility. Maybe they're demons. I'm a big fan of medieval artwork, especially like the big depictions of hellscapes. I think those are cool. Like, I was going to say cool as hell, but that's redundant. Mm-hmm. I think those things are super cool. And there are creatures in there that kind of look like big men with goat horns. It's a thing.
So hang on. It's a demonic creature from another dimension. Or is it possible that West Virginia mining companies were irresponsible letting loose chemicals into the water?
The goat has been a symbol of demonicism for an extremely long time. I'm just saying there's a lot of symbolism matching up here.
I know, but to be fair, the fact that Boone County, West Virginia smells like sulfur just all the time just makes me think that I think it just might just because it's permeating on its skin.
Beyond that, someone could easily say to me, well, maybe medieval men had ran into these and used that to create their depictions of demons. Right.
Now, I'm not saying that it can't be. I'm not saying that it can't be. I'm just if I couldn't find an explanation as to why it could be smelling like sulfur, then I would probably go with your explanation on it. But that was just my thought on that.
You got anything else on Sheepsquatch?
That I really wanted to get into for that. No, I was just the whole thing with the horns was something that I really wanted to talk about because I wanted you guys to get something that was different that people normally don't talk about. That.
Okay, I'm about to hit you with something different. This is not a real long one, but okay. Have you ever heard of Jimmy Squarefoot?
Doesn't he owe me like $5?
I do not know who owes you what.
That sounds like somebody who owes you money. That sounds like that kind of a guy.
Okay, imagine, if you will, you're in England, you're off Wales on the island of Man, which is where this creature lurks. You're walking along the road, and then running at you from like the forest line is this creature wearing tattered human clothes, calico leg wrappings, hunched over form, big old feet, and the head of a pig with very pronounced tusks coming out of it, comes charging up at you.
When was this?
It's a legend of the area that supposedly that this is a creature that had lived there and was accounted for by local villagers on the Isle of Man.
And it just had a square foot?
It had this big foot, and it kind of was more square shaped. To the best of my understanding, that's where the square foot comes from.
Oh, man. I'm thinking of something, if I ran into something like that, that's kind of one of those instances where I'm like...
That guy go be bacon.
Yeah. Like, I'm going to, like, time to take him out. And we're gonna call him Johnny Salty Tasting. That was terrible. I'm sorry.
There was a lot of theories that went around the village on where this creature came from, and oddly enough, most of them involved giants.
Thinking that it was a pig-headed giant?
Well, there were two theories that I came across on where Johnny Squarefoot came from. They had these legends of these rock-throwing giants in the area. And one is that this was a pet of this particular rock-throwing giant, and he either kicked him out or he sent him to town from time to time, and that's why the villagers would sometimes see him around town. And apparently, he was allowed in town. Like, he would come into town sometimes, and no one would kill it. The other theory was that this was a stone-throwing giant that was very piggish, and somehow magically transformed into a pig. Very uninteresting. Doesn't explain how this happens.
This just kind of sounds like a town in England just was making fun of a disabled guy.
And it possibly.
But he had a club foot.
One of the things is that a big part of the legend is that if you're walking around the roads, he'll sometimes charge you and act like he's going to gore you with his tusk, but he never does. He always stops and then just kind of backs away.
That's just how he says hello.
To me, this sounds like something being territorial. But I guess I don't 100% know.
Why would it stop if he's being territorial?
Because sometimes an animal will be territorial even though it knows it can't win the fight.
Oh, like a goose.
Have you never
like
been
like a goose or a
by
swan?
A squirrel?
Yeah.
Like a squirrel will sometimes charge me if I get too close to like where they're storing their acorns. But that squirrel knows it's not going to win the fight. It's going to run at me acting like it's mad. Then it's going to stop. Realize I'm not scared of it, and then it runs away.
I feel like a giant with a pig head and a square foot feels like it would probably know that it could take you.
Maybe it's not willing to risk it.
No.
Like, it might just be a smart animal. Humans are smart, pigs are smart. This seems like a hybrid of the two, so maybe it's super smart.
Did the town ever eat him? That probably wouldn't be kosher.
I did not find a conclusive end to the legend. Just that this was a thing, and supposedly may still be a thing. But it does have a lot of smackings of folklore. But I did want to bring up this very odd hairy humanoid because it was very, very odd.
Damn, that's weird.
Yeah, it is weird.
Do
you want to see a picture of him? Because there are colloquial pictures of him.
Yeah, we'll put a photo of that. Okay, first of all, there's not a whole lot of hair on that guy. You missed the mark on this.
It's hairy.
Show me that again.
Look real
that
close.
That is some. Why do they keep calling him square? What kind of foot is that? No, that's just a bandage. He's just a disabled guy. That's terrible.
It's a type of wrapping called calico. But no, disabled people do not have obvious boar heads with tusks.
No. Oh, man, that's so
To the best of my knowledge. If there are some, I apologize.
You probably wouldn't taste very good, too, if they decided to roast them and cook them.
I'm probably not, and might even be cannibalism. You got any other stories you're wanting to go over?
You know what's really weird? There's another type of monster that's a hairy monster from Texas that we could bring up too. I always love these like really like off the wall ones,
like Johnny Squarefoot.
Yeah, like the Lake Worth monster. That's another interesting. This thing is half man, half goat, half fish.
Half man, half goat, half fish.
I didn't say that I did the math. I just said. That's what people describe it as.
Just that sounds like something that's going to be awesome. Please sing me his song. I want to know the legend of this.
Yeah,
thing.
That it's a legendary lake monster that lives in Lake Worth and in the Fort Worth Nature Center and Refuge just outside of Fort Worth,
As
Texas.
of note, I've been there many times. Back when I was growing up on the farm, and we used to go to horse shows around Fort Worth all the time.
I always thought you were going to say that's where your parents just abandoned you.
No.
Like they just left you by a lake. Just to wander around, and that's how the legend of the Fort Worth Lake Monster got started.
That did happen a lot because my parents were very free range. We'd get to a horse show in some area I'm totally unfamiliar with, and then they're like, okay, we're going to do stuff. You go do whatever the hell you want to do. Be here around sunset.
Yeah. So apparently in July of 1969, it's like the heyday. It's like the moment that this creature sort of kind of came into the limelight, where he jumps on
Wait,
a man.
did you say 1969?
Yeah.
There's no. I'm not nearly old enough to be the source of this legend.
Well, yeah, I didn't clarify it yet. You might have been considered a later sighting. They might have thought you were one of its babies, probably walking around. Like, oh, look, there's just a little baby Vic walking around. Someone just went, oh, look, even the Lake Worth monster found love. Good for it. It really was the summer of love. And yeah,
but you're still placing this in like the 60s. I wasn't alive in the 60s. There, go. Tell your story.
Sorry. And it's like a lot of classic monsters where there's a story of it in July 1969. It jumps on the hood of a car, messes up the car, jumping out of a tree. And there's another story in which it throws a tire just at a group of kids. And it goes along a lot with like sort of those like Goatman, Sheepsquatch sightings. There's even a photo of it, by the way, that I'll put up. That's a famous photo of it that looks kind of like the Wampa from Star Wars. It looks weird. It's kind of like this weird like white Yeti looking thing that's walking around.
So where does the part fish thing come in?
Oh, that it's seen in a lake.
Oh, okay.
That it lives in the lake.
Like how frogs are part fish because they live in a lake.
Mm-hmm. I didn't say I wrote the legend, man. I'm just saying that's
did it ever get close to anyone? Did it ever attack anyone?
Yeah. It jumped on the hood of these people's car that was driving down the road.
Sorry, I was looking at my next segment and I zoned out for
and there was another one where it hurled a tire at a group of kids. Apparently, Vic doesn't consider either of those as actually like attack worthy.
Sorry. Like I said, I looked away till we find a date for something. Because when you said the 1960s, that made me think, wait, that's something like what I was going to talk about.
Like in the grand scheme of, I would say in the grand scheme of Goatman, sheep people sightings, I would say that's kind of like, not as bad as just straight murder or, burnt down that they're trying to often do to people. But
you don't normally find hairy hominids associated with, the water. But I got something for you. Was there anything else on that you were wanting to talk about?
No, you can keep going. Go ahead.
Okay. 1961, approximately 11 at night in Spain. Archimedes Sanchez, hell of a name right there, is driving a truck with one of his friends. They're driving down the road, and they see something in the headlights ahead that kind of blocks them in. It is hairy, very large, 2 glowing eyes, and shaped like an octopus with 4 appendages instead of 2. And it's staying there in the road, keeping them from going anywhere. This is the story of the Octosquatch. Even though it only had 4, they still call it Octosquatch because the guy described it as looking like a octopus, but covered in hair with these glowing eyes. Maybe not strictly humanoid, but still too strange of a story to not talk about.
I would say this is good. This is close enough for me.
This was weird enough. I had to include
Did I say what color the eyes were glowing?
The eyes were glowing red. The fur was rust colored. Because they got to look at this for a long time because they were pretty much stuck there and they did not know what to do. At one point, Archimedes...
4 arms, he said?
It had 4 hairy tentacles. Yeah. At one point, like, Archimedes even tells his friend to go get the jackhammer that they have in the truck and go attack it with it.
I don't believe anybody that has a jackhammer knows that that's not going to be effective.
That's a terrible idea for a weapon.
It's like you hold still while I jackhammer you, like just straight out. That doesn't. What can you throw it?
Well, the thing is, I don't think they're
throwing at it.
I think they're just basically hit him with this big heavy metal thing.
Have you ever tried to throw a jackhammer? Those things are heavy.
Oh, of course they are, but I'm assuming these might be burly enough men. But that's what his friend tells him. He's like, hell no, that's a terrible idea. I'm not getting out there with that. And I'm definitely not attacking him with a jackhammer.
Also, they're in a car and they're playing a truck. I'm sorry. Their plan is to get out of the truck and to get into their trunk and get the jackhammer out rather than run the creature over.
I think they were afraid of like them hitting it and it like breaking the window with its tentacles because apparently this thing was big and like I think they were worried about it damaging the truck and also potentially getting in the truck at that point and hurting them.
No, this thing had to like release a stupid pheromone because they're like, oh man, we don't know if we're gonna be able to take this thing out with the truck. Quick, get the jackhammer. Tell it to hold still.
But it is one of the oddest descriptions, and this is a one and done thing. No one else ever sees this thing. There's no other accounts of this that I could find. But it is weird as heck.
Did it just walk away, or how did the situation resolve?
If I remember right, it does just walk off. I'm having a hard time recalling it at this moment. And also, beyond that, they're around the mountains. I'm trying to remember the name of the mountains, too. But if I remember right, eventually it does cross the road and leave them be. And at one point, another truck comes by, because part of the road is still open. But he doesn't think that the people saw it, or at least they didn't stop.
I could just see that now. I'm like, did you see the Octosquatch? Roll him up. Sorry, just keep going.
But the story isn't the big part. It's the description, the utterly bizarre description. Part of me wants to say maybe they saw a Spanish Sasquatch and then just misread the body, because they still have it with 4 limbs. Mm-hmm. But then another part of me is like, what if they really saw a gigantic hairy octopus thing that became Octosquatch?
Yeah, maybe the Sasquatch was exposed to some sort of radiation and it just grew 2 extra arms.
Well, no. It only had 4 appendages altogether.
Oh, okay. So it had legs and then arms. Okay.
It had the right amount of numbers for a regular Sasquatch. But they really said it looked more like an octopus.
Maybe that's the reason why we stopped testing so many nuclear weapons around that particular. We're like, all right, we're creating Octosquatches.
Was there a lot of nuclear tests there?
No, maybe that's just the reason why we don't want to do that. We don't want to do them anymore. Is we started realizing that we're creating Octosquatches. I mean, here's what if you're going to run into a regular Sasquatch or you're going to run into Octosquatch, which one are you going to want? Which one do you want to pick?
Sasquatch.
That's what I'm saying. I wouldn't want to run into Octosquatch either if I, in my mind, somehow creates this thing in my head of, I can't hit this thing with my truck. I need to get out and hit it with a much more bulkier object. Like, because that's what it seems to do.
Like I said, I think they may have had just reason to not hit it.
I also think that they may have also been enjoying some of the liquid libations if that was their plan.
Like one time,
I'm not making fun of what they saw. I'm making fun of the way they responded to what they saw.
Like this was Halloween night. I think it was my sophomore year. I'm driving down Highway 50, and I hit a deer that just kind of runs out in front of me. I'm driving a Jeep Cherokee, and that deer destroyed that car.
That's true.
Everyone in the car was fine, but there was a deer-sized imprint in the car, and the car was just wrecked. Mm-hmm. It was done.
Like if you hit a moose, like if you ever see moose, like they're taller than some cars, and they'll just rip the front of your car off.
And you're advising them to hit this big octopi thing.
Option B is to throw the jackhammer at it. What's that gonna do? Piss it off?
I don't know. I think I would just try to outweight it and hope it goes away.
No, what it would have been like, it's Octosquatch, and he's got a jackhammer.
That goes well with the Bigfoot who's out there running around with a gun.
Yeah.
Which Bigfoot was that?
Yeah, that was the Murfreesboro mud monster.
Him, the Octosquatch with the jackhammer, and the one with the psychic powers are all going to form their own super villain.
This is why we can't find these creatures, is because when people run into them, they do stupid things, and now they're just collecting tools over time. We already know they've got a gun, they've got a jackhammer now, apparently, plenty of apple pies, lots of peanut butter. What are they doing? I don't know. I'm not the criminal mastermind.
They're building something. I'm certain of it. Okay, did you have any other just oddball things to bring up before we bring this one to a close and start our
those were
segment?
So that was kind of what I had. I'd love to get your final thoughts on hairy humanoids. I mean, this is wrapping up our month-long talk on hairy humanoids.
Okay, I have no comment on Octosquatch. As far as hairy humanoids in general,
I got a post question for you.
Let me do my thought. I already got started.
Okay, go ahead.
I think that they are physical creatures. I think that they are animals. I think they are biological. And I think they have some weird supernatural stuff going on. Maybe they're aliens, maybe not. But it kind of seems like some of them know magic and some of them just want to eat your peanut butter. I mean, that if you take all the stories together, that's what it seems like. Some of them are brilliant wizards and some of them just want your apple pie off your windowsill.
But you don't think if they're physical creatures, like I know the classic argument is, why have we not found one? And I know we're kind of pushing a little bit closer time. I don't know if this is really the particular moment we want to cross this bridge, but
we've talked about this plenty of times, like how often you find bear skeletons in the woods. The thing is, the woods breaks down a skeleton really well.
But not even accidentally. Like at this point, like where we can get one, where we can get a body.
These things don't really seem to wander into town.
The more that I've been researching, I'm not willing to say I don't believe the stories. What I'm saying is that I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to wonder really if they are actual physical creatures that exist on this particular plane. It's getting harder.
And perhaps not, but I still think that they could remain elusive as a biological creature.
I don't know something.
Although I do think they have supernatural capabilities.
No, I think that they'd have to. It's so hard for me not to believe that one just even accidentally.
Maybe they're like some of those. Maybe they're like some of the Hindu mystics that, like, when they die, they just fade away into the energy of the universe,
into nothingness, and that's why we just don't find them anymore. No, I mean, I guess that it could, but I mean, if you really think about like how. Like, we get literal video footage of, like, almost everything. And how, like, there was just no physical body of any creature, like, of that sort of size. It really makes me wonder. Like, I'm not saying that there might not be just some sort of massive conspiracy to keep it under wraps and whatnot. But I just every year that goes by, it just makes it harder for me to believe. It makes it that one accidentally couldn't.
So is that your final thoughts on it? That you think it has to be a non-physical creature?
Yeah, that it has to be a non-physical creature.
Like, I'm not against the idea of it being a non-physical creature. Like, there's enough weird stuff around it that I'm willing to consider it something more in the ephemeral category.
I believe the stories that people tell me. I believe the, it's a creature that's seen in literally every single culture around the world. There's no culture that these kinds of things are not seen in. But it's just to me that we're still seeing them in the modern day, so it's harder. It's just harder for me just to ride them in a way, as just being just some sort of elusive creature out there. But I don't know. Leave your guys' thoughts in the comments below. Do you guys agree with Vic that it's just this elusive creature that lives out there that we just can't find,
that may have magical powers?
Or like when I'm saying like with me that it's some sort of supernatural creature that doesn't exist on the actual natural plane and exists somewhere else? Do you guys think that the government's just that good at hiding it, and they're just that good at covering it up?
Would you agree with me? It's not an ape.
No, it's not an ape.
Okay, good. You're good.
No, I don't think so. There's no way. Put your guys' thoughts. We're wrapping up Hairy Humanoids in the comments below. But until next time, guys, keep believing.
Because we'll keep listening.
All right, guys, we're going to slide into the Pillow Talk segment of this podcast. If you want to check out the rest of this awesome podcast, all you got to do is go over to our Patreon and sign up for as little as $1 a month. You get the rest of this awesome episode, as well as the extended part of all of our previous episodes, as well as bonus videos that we put up just for our patrons. If you sign up for $2 more a month, you get access to our poll, where you get to vote on the theme for our month. And next month, it's looking like it's going to be Missing 411. It's been a topic for a very long time that people have wanted us to get into, and in October, Halloween, this is the time that we're going to be diving into the whole stories of people disappearing in the woods and maybe some other weird stuff going on in national parks. So I think it's going to be a fun month next month. So I would definitely go over and sign up to be a patron so that we don't miss any of the content that we put up for that. So we thought that for our patron segment today, we would probably keep talking a little bit more about me and Vic's little spat towards the end of this episode, where about the whole concept of the body. Why have we not found a body? So I think one of the first things that we could kind of get into is why would we not be able to find a body if there is a physical body? One of the easiest explanations that I've heard before from other people is this idea of that there's this big conspiracy with the government that they're hiding the bodies. We talked about that in the beginning of the episode, right? Like with the whole Mount St. Helens thing, the government moved them.
Potentially partially true.
Yeah.
But also, like, bodies just break down the woods really kind of quick.
But if Bigfoot is out there, Vic, do you think that there's a lot of them?
No, I would say that there are small mobile populations.
Right. So if that's the case, then that would probably mean that Bigfoot is probably an endangered species, and any hairy human would probably be extremely